You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building, Miss Angel Rich.
Yes. Now, Forbes magazine asked the question, could the next Steve Jobs be a black woman? And they're talking about Miss Angel Rich. So tell the people why Forbes feels that way, Angel.
Well, first of all, what school did you go to? What college?
HU, Hampton University in the building, the one and only real HU.
Jesus Christ.
You know.
Just
All
asking.
right,
She
Angel.
did a whole
We
drop
did that
back.
here.
Just asking.
So what happened to
You know what I'm saying? Onyx 7?
Shut up. Now you can ask the question, answer the question now.
Why do they think you're the next Steve Jobs?
Well, essentially, I would say the first reason is we have a game called Credit Stacker where we reverse engineered the Fair Isaac credit reporting system, and we applied game mechanics to it, and we created a game where it's similar to Candy Crush, but instead of swapping around candy, you're swapping around credit types to be able to pay off your debt and achieve a high credit score. And we're essentially trying to reduce poverty through a game, and it's been quite revolutionary.
That's a brilliant idea because for kids, and I've always said this, they don't teach things about investing and about finances and about your credit when you're in school. And kids do so much on their phone that being able to actually work through their finances through an app and a game is the best way to get to them.
Definitely. We also released a version last week at South by. We hosted the first ever Black Tech Matters Awards at Facebook. And with that, we also launched a version of the game that has music integrated into it. We partnered with Epic Solutions, a record label, and there's two artists named Ryan Javon and Paige, and we actually put their music directly into the game. So you could go to Google Play and iOS right now in 60 countries, 21 languages, download the game for free, and groove to improve your credit.
Was your credit that bad in college?
Actually, it was.
Because mine was horrible. They threw every credit card at you, and I took it. Is that what
Mine
made
was
you do this
terrible
game?
too.
Yes,
I think all
actually,
of us.
and not many people actually asked me that. I graduated Hampton with $180,000 worth of debt.
Wow. I mean, with student loans and everything else.
I was
and
pretty close to that.
I essentially kind of put myself through school, so I had to pay for the car that I had, the rent that I was paying, all of those various different things added up at the end of the day. And when I graduated, I had $180,000 worth of debt.
I ain't had that much. I had close to 100, but 180?
180.
What kind of car were you driving? Where were you living?
I had a brand new Sebring 2007.
Okay.
Stat on them.
So a lot of trial and error went into you learning about financial literacy.
Definitely. And when I calculated out the payments, I would have been 60 years old before I was out of debt.
Yikes.
And I was like, I can't live like this. Like, I got to figure this out. And as a result, I just learned various different hacks along the way. And slowly, when I started talking with people about them, I realized that it was kind of information that I had developed and a lot of other people didn't have it. And it needed to be shared with people.
It seems like they do that to make kids lose. You know, with you're talking 23% interest and things like that. Like, you can never pay that off in no time, you know?
Exactly, as well as kind of the point of the game is to teach kids about interest. And so I didn't even know what the legal limit of interest was on that car.
What's the legal limit? Because I don't know.
It's 22%, but my car note was 28%
Well,
when I
damn.
first got it. Yeah, I told you I had bad credit. I told you.
28%?
Yes.
So what was your note on that Sebring? It had to
Shout
be
out to Road Loans. Shout out to.
What was your note on that Sebring?
It was like $600.
$600 for a Sebring? Oh my goodness, Angel. Jeesh. She could have had a Benz.
Why was it
That's
so
my
high?
note on my Benz now. Actually.
She had bad credit.
Yikes. So who taught you about money? Like, who taught you how to get it together?
Well, a little bit of, I learned business from my parents. I grew up in a life insurance sales family. I learned how to make money from them. But I didn't necessarily learn about credit as much. My mother used to always yell about her credit and how we couldn't get certain things because of credit, and she used to pay for everything in cash. Like, I just thought that was the way to do things.
Right.
And it wasn't, I really kind of taught myself for real. And once I got out of the debt, once I was working my way out of the debt through the process of doing that and researching it and going to classes myself, I kind of just learned along the way. And then I'm a statistician. So I was a global market research analyst for Prudential Financial, and I conducted a bunch of research studies to also figure out exactly how to be able to reduce debt and change behavioral psyche.
Can you lower those rates? You know, because you said 28%. Can you go back and lower those rates if it's 23 or 22 once your credit goes up, or are you
Yes.
stuck with that?
You should.
Definitely. Yeah. Essentially, that's called refinancing for everybody. And basically, you're able to go back and reapply for the loan and be able to get a reduced amount when you have a better credit score. And you can even go and put lump sums on whatever your principal amount or your loan amount that you're paying off.
On credit card companies too?
Yeah, on everything.
Really?
You can also, if your money goes in, if the money that you owe goes in, your debt goes into collections, right?
Yes.
You can also bargain with them.
Oh, yes. That's my favorite part. And that was one of the things I learned that a lot of people didn't know. Like, if you're deep in debt, like, who pays off the full amount? Like, you can negotiate for a strong 20 to 30%. Yes.
You can even negotiate your student loan that you owe.
Yes,
You can
definitely.
and
Did
you
you
should
do that?
definitely try to.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Hampton completely wiped mine off.
What'd you have to
They
pay?
did what?
Yep. Hampton.
They
You heard
wiped
me
you-
right. Let me not say that too loud.
We gotta talk Harvey now. How did you do that?
Well,
This is a
essentially,
good
a
one.
little trick here is with HBCUs, they're technically a private loan, not a federal loan. So technically, it falls off in 7 years.
Go ahead and share that information with the rest of the world now.
You better not, because there's gonna be a whole bunch of
I'm not
I
paying
know.
for
That's why I
7
don't.
years.
You've
Falling
never
down.
heard me say that anywhere.
Oh,
I,
my
I
goodness.
don't
So you mean
promote that.
after 7 years they don't have to pay it at all?
If you have it, so when you go to a HBCU, you tend to be able to get that first $10,000. Now after that, you on your own, but they tend to give you that first $10,000.
Right.
But technically, it's not from the government.
So what happens to the debt?
Technically, if you
It's
wait
off your
7
credit.
years,
It falls off your credit.
Wow.
That's why they always tell you when you have bad credit, that stuff gets erased after 7
After
years.
7 years.
It's
Yeah.
not just a myth. That really does
yes,
happen.
exactly, and that's another thing. Like people be going around just paying off stuff. Like you got to have a science to this.
Yo, Angel is hood smart.
What? That doesn't sound like she got the information.
What?
No, Andrew, I'm not gonna lie, because
But he's
that's
actually
brilliant.
right. I'm the real life rich dad, poor dad. My birth father is a man named Lunchbox Yogi, and my stepfather that raised me was one of the first black top entrepreneurs in DC, and
So you
he
had the
used
best
to
of
own
both worlds,
Sobe in
yeah.
Miami. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He actually hired DJ Khaled very early on in his career.
Wow, I remember
Wow.
Toby. Mhm.
Yeah, that was
So-
my father's club.
What'd you major in?
Yeah, marketing.
Okay.
So if you can actually
So I-
afford to have bad credit for a few years, you could wait 7 years. If
Exactly.
you're not about to buy a house.
So here's
or-
my theory, right? Like, say you graduate with $180,000 worth of debt, and you just come out making like $50,000. You can't pay off everything at one time. So you need to be able to divide it into items that are large and things that are going to permanently stay there. Like the student loans, go ahead and get into a rehabilitation program because those are never falling off. So you might as well start trying to figure out a way to pay them off. Now you should wait a year because you can extend it for a year before you actually start paying it off. Then things that are like $10,000 or more that has been on your credit for less than 4 years, I would say pay those off first because your credit to debt ratio is the most important thing that's affecting your credit score. But if it's $10,000 and it's been on your credit for more than 4 years and you don't really have the money and you have a ton of other
wait
debt,
that last 3 years.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
Now, you got a book, History of the Black Dollar.
Yes.
Okay, why do you
baby.
think black people historically haven't been able to make their dollar work for them?
Well, the main part
that
of
we
it is group economics. Like when I was younger, I'm from Kingman Park, the first black neighborhood in the country. And my great grandmother always made us shop in DC as well as with black people. Like she was adamant about it. We would have to drive around for miles just to find this specific person sometimes. And I never understood it until I wrote the book. And so a part of my research, it would take us over 250 years to be able to catch up with our counterparts if we do not exercise group economics. And so it's essential. That's the only way that we're going to be able to close this wealth gap. We have to be able to put our money where our mouth is and actually collectively share with each other.
You know, why do you think it's so hard for our community to do that? Like you look at other communities, whether it's the Jewish community, the Russian community, Italian community, they're able to put their money together and build blocks, build communities. Seems like with our community, we're scared to, we just don't want to.
And there's
So-
a lot of roadblocks for us as
To
well.
be straight to the point about it, I would say the problem would be Willie Lynch, obviously. And then the solution would be in other cultures, they start financially educating their children at a young age on
Absolutely.
group economics. When the Jewish kids are going to school in the evening, they're actually going to finance and economics school. They're learning about finance before they even get out of elementary school. And so we're not doing that at all. And that was the reason I created the games, to be able to start a new generation for the world. And I see it. I had an executive at Google recently at South by tell me his 8-year-old knows more about credit than most of his friends because he's been playing my game for 2 months.
You know what's crazy? Because I do that with my son. I taught him early, and he's making money. He knows about credit. He knows about bank accounts. He knows about transferring money. I didn't know none of this until I was probably about 28. But the fact that he's 10, 11 years old, he has his own bank account, he has his own PayPal, he has his own money. It's like, I absolutely positively agree with you. If you have kids, start them early.
Yes, definitely. And I watch, I don't know if y'all familiar with Me's and the Bees, the
Me's
Michaela
and the
girl.
Bees.
Yeah.
Yes, I met this young woman, and she's just amazing. And her parents just instilled an entrepreneurship spirit in her. They didn't shut her down when she wanted to start her lemonade company. They pushed her out there with her little brother, and they didn't tell her, hey, don't use honey, use sugar. You know, they didn't limit her. And I think that that's one of the most important things that you need to be able to do for your children. You need to allow them to feel like they have limitless possibilities. And if you teach them that as a young age, integrate it with economics, how you can make money for yourself, you could be a millionaire at 9 years old.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the balancing act, right? The balancing act is letting your kids know the realities of America, but then also telling them they can do and be whatever it is they want to be.
Absolutely.
Definitely. My mother was very much like that. She never limited us with anything. My sister owns a nail salon. Shout out to Snob Nails.
Hey.
And so we always felt like we
You got
could
to put the address out there. You just can't shout out. Where is it
at Snob Nails. Oh, she's at Iverson Mall in D.C.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
all right.
her grand opening is on April 7th. She owns one in Laurel, but she's transitioning to D.C. to a much larger,
There you go.
muy bella shop. And so I just got back from Italy. So yes, I'm very excited about my sister's shop, and she started as a nurse and just hustled her butt off, and now she's like a kind of like a celebrity nail tech. She's followed by Versace and different things like that. And so my mother never limited us, but she always let us know that it was a tough world out there. I had to read business books every single week. I had to do book reports on them. She would always tell me that life is not fair. I got this essay that I did in the 5th grade. It starts, life is not fair. So I definitely had reality along with it as well.
So for Angel, for you writing this book, History of the Black Dollar, what are some things that you learned while writing this book that surprised even you that you didn't know beforehand?
I like that question. Some things that I learned, I didn't know that it was a black person that started the first oyster house in Rhode Island.
I saw that.
I didn't know that either
Yes.
until I read your book.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a lot of black first that I
Right.
didn't know.
Yes, I thought that was pretty cool. I kind of knew, but not as in depth, and this is a kind of a big point of the book, that at the end of the Revolutionary War, slavery was starting to die down. Because slavery wasn't profitable. They had to take care of the slaves. They were getting sick, and it wasn't profitable for them to maintain them. Then good old Eli Whitney created the cotton gin.
Cotton in the South.
Yes, and so as a result, it allowed cotton to become the cheapest and highest quality across the world. And therefore, America became the #1 country in the world because we had the cheapest and highest quality of cotton, literally off of free labor. That is then the money that we were able to use for the Industrial Revolution. And I'm shocked when I go around the country and speak at places like Harvard and different things like that the country does not know this information, like, at all. Like, they have no clue. And at a place like Harvard, where the most educated people in the country, if they don't know how the country started, I believe that is also why we are not on the same page in terms of group economics within ourselves as well as with other races, because we are unclear about our history. There was a study that came out recently with MSN saying that, I don't know the exact percentage, but it was a large majority didn't know that the Civil War was based off of slavery. And so there's just so many things that
When you speak about
don't know.
when you speak about those people at Harvard, they're being taught their history, and the problem with us is we're also being taught their history.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Nobody's teaching them our history, and we don't know our history.
And coming from growing up in what used to be Chocolate City, it was 99% black when I grew up there. And so we actually learned black history in D.C. And apparently the rest of the country really doesn't to the level that we did.
Right.
Like, when we read books, we were reading black history books. In the morning, we sung the Black National Anthem. Like, it was like a black school, you know? And so when I go out, and I went to Hampton, and I met this girl from Roanoke, and she didn't know who Frederick Douglass was.
Wow.
And there was a picture of Africa on the wall, and she walked in and asked us what that was.
God
But
damn.
the one thing about
Jesus
Hampton
Christ.
is...
So I almost want to say her name, but I ain't
Say her name now.
Don't do it.
Well, you know, in Hampton, there's so many different people from so many different places. You know what I mean? Because at one time, Hampton was considered, quote unquote, the bougie school. So
Yes.
it was
It
so
still
many
is.
different people. Like I seen that a lot as well.
Yeah.
I definitely seen that a lot as well. But even in Queens, we learned all that. Like, it was a black school in Queens, mostly West Indian. So we did the same thing. We learned our history. My kids now, the only way they learn the history is from me and their mom. Other than that, they don't learn it.
And that's excellent. I find that a lot of families don't teach their kids history. The state of Virginia right now is considering this book as required reading across all the
That's
schools.
dope.
That'd be
in
great.
Virginia.
That is dope.
And it's my goal to have it required reading across all schools before I die, because I really feel as though having those conversations with your children as a family and as a school and together is really important.
Plug the book the way you plug the nail salon real quick in the middle of the
Yes.
interview for no reason.
Definitely. History of the Black Dollar, getting on Amazon.com. It goes from slavery to present day and provides us with an economic perspective on Black culture to get us all on the same page.
And what's great about it is, I think for kids, sometimes we have to, just like when you watch a movie like Black Panther, take pride in things that we have accomplished, because like you said, there's a lot of things that I learned when I was reading this book that I didn't know we created as well. And for kids, that's a source of pride to say, oh, okay, we had a large part in, I mean, we were the people that built this country.
Definitely, and different things like Freeman's Bank, like a big thing that I came to the conclusion of. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of reparations before I wrote the book, and I was just like, once I wrote the book, I like wanted to go out with like some pickets and like start protesting for reparations, because there was actually 6 different times throughout Black history that we were robbed, and most times people talk about Black Wall Street,
Okay.
but I'm gonna talk about Freeman's Bank. You know, Freeman's Bank was the bank that was created as slavery was dying out and a lot of slaves were becoming free, and it was literally for the free men. And so Lincoln felt as though we needed a place to have our bank. They eventually started going down because people, or I'm going to use Ava, Caucasians started taking our money.
See, Ava, you making a difference out here. Salute to
Yes,
Ava.
I was like, okay, Ava, I got you, Ava. I love Ava so much.
Me too.
And so I was like, okay, the Caucasians just kept taking our money. They then brought Frederick Douglass in. That's why we have a house. Frederick Douglass has a house in D.C. He put $10,000 of his own money into the bank. They still kept stealing our money. So when the bank ended, it was millions of dollars of our money that they just took from us and never gave back. So my perspective as an economist says, it's one thing to say that the labor that we did during slavery is the equivalent of $6 trillion. But let's say for whatever reason, y'all just felt like we should have been slaves. Okay, how about the money that we actually put into the bank
That you stole.
that you just stole? Can we get that back?
Word.
So that happened 6 different times.
What were
throughout
the
our
other
history.
times? Oh, you want them to buy the book?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
Black
Black
Book.
Now, Forbes said...
Black Wall Street was another
Black Wall
time.
Street, definitely.
Yeah, I gotta think.
Now, Forbes said you won't be the next Steve Jobs if you keep getting funded crumbs. How important is funding for what you do?
Funding is extremely important, especially when you're trying to build technology, which is why venture capital and investment exists. It's always been the thought process that when you're creating something new or inventing something, that you get funding for it. Sadly, in the world right now, only 1% of funding goes to Black people, and only 0.02% of funding go to Black women. We're actually rounding up with that. And so only 16 Black women in the world have raised over $1 million in the past 6 years.
That's
and
crazy.
That's just a serious problem.
When Stacey Tisdale was just here, she was saying that Black women get about $36,000 in investment to the $1.2 million that a white man will get.
And
on
sadly,
average.
I actually have a little bit of updated data that over the past year, or rather like 2 years, because it's 2018, over the past 2 years, businesses started by Black women have increased by 200 to 300%. And so as a result, the pool of money is now stretched even thinner where we were getting it from. So now on average, Black women are getting about $25,000 compared to the and that's of a successful company. That's a successful Black woman compared to $3 to $5 million of an unsuccessful Caucasian male.
That's crazy.
And that goes back to what
so
you said
funny.
before, that we need to really start putting our money together so we can, as a community, say, okay, here's $1 million. We're behind you.
We
you
can
know?
help each other. When I met Angel in Toronto, I'm talking to her, and I was like, well, what?
Shout out to Influence Orbits.
Influence Orbit.
Terry Lindor.
What's up,
yes,
brother?
got you, brother.
I'm like, yo, what's some good apps to invest in? She was like, me, nigga.
I thought you was being funny.
How do we help that? How do we help
Yes,
fund you?
literally
How can we invest
invest
in
in
you?
me. Straight up, for real.
There we go.
We're raising $1 million right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just closed 100,000. We got another 50,000 coming in, so that leaves us with 850. Our minimum investment is 50,000. You can email our team at angel@getwealthylife.com. The team will get it. And we are seriously looking for investments. We just increased in our last round our investors' money by 60% in 7 months.
That's great.
In 7 months.
That's a great investment.
Yes, and it's on the SEC. Everything, you could go look it up. It's on the SEC. This is public information. And so when's the last time somebody has done an investment that did 10% in 3 years?
Right.
And so we've been very strategic about who we're taking money from. I'm very big in making my investors money. I also know what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily just raising money and guessing at it like a lot of other entrepreneurs. And so we have strategically raised our money. And now we're at the point where with the game that we just launched, with the music integrated into it, we're now raising this next round, and we're looking to just scale it even further because we have what is essentially called, I'm not going to say a guaranteed algorithm, but close to what is a guaranteed algorithm, where we reverse engineered Google, Facebook, and Instagram ad platforms. We were able to scale historically to 200,000 downloads in 10 days. Google then called us, told us they were impressed and amazed, named us one of the top 10 apps in the world in 2017, and was like, we've never seen anything like this in the world, especially given you don't have no money.
Right.
And so it's like,
Imagine
give me some money.
Right.
Right. Well, tell them again, if somebody out there that has the money and wants to think about helping and supporting and investing, what's the email again?
It's angel@getwealthylife.com.
And you also
And we
warn
will
about
email you right back.
getting those investments from, or getting funding from, like getting a loan from a bank or investor, like certain types of investors.
Yeah, so the problem with that, and that's why I rep Black Tech Matters so hard, and we go around and film everything. Shout out to Cameron Flores, my VP of Communications. And so
You're not filming now?
I know, I told him not to.
Oh, okay.
We told them not to. They're not allowed to film in
we
here.
told them.
I would
Yeah.
have let Angel film.
Well, he can
Come
have
on.
He can have this
Yeah, we'll give you this footage.
footage.
Yeah.
So
How about you talking about the banks? How that can be getting a loan from a
Yes.
bank can actually hurt you.
Right. And so as well as if you do have student loans on your credit, like I'm good friends with most of the Black banks in the country. And so, but if you have student loans on your credit, it makes it kind of difficult for you to be able to get those type of loans. And so there's a lot of policy, and as a result, there's a lot of policy work that I do in DC, working with the Bipartisan Policy Center and all type of people. Well, shout out to the Center for Global Policy Solutions, Dr. Maya Rockymore. So yes, so I do a lot
She
of
did your
policy
40 book
work.
too.
Yes, she did. And she was running for governor of Maryland, and she's married to Elijah Cummings, and I love her dearly. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Do you
And
bank
so-
black?
I do Bank Black.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the
And
biggest
Bank Black actually is my chief business development officer.
Okay.
He works for us now. Works with us now.
What's a guy named Bank
Yes.
Black?
No, he owns Bank Black. Bank,
Oh, got you.
yeah,
Got you.
Yeah, he owns Bank Black.
I think the
Yeah.
biggest, I bank black as well, but I think the biggest problem is that they're hard to access. Like,
Yeah, they're hard-
You know
they're
what I
hard to
mean?
get
Like you
to.
always see a Wells Fargo, you always see a Chase.
Yes.
You don't really see a One United just.
They
out and
could
about.
also do better with customer service and innovative products, online banking, different things like that. That's one of the missions that we have. I was recently named a global icon by the United Nations for the most influential people in the world in different apps like the Black app by Donovan Bridgeport. We're looking to connect people together with the African diaspora, with the Black banks, with the Black businesses, and different things like that, so that we are able to be able to come together. And we have plenty of things out there. There's no need to be able to recreate the wheel. Shout out to Jay-Z and Diddy with what they doing and trying to create that app. But
Yeah.
we got the Black app already.
I said that on air.
And so,
I said that
yeah,
when
an
Angela
official Black
reported it.
Wall
Official
Street.
Black Wall Street, yeah.
We got apps already. I'm building one called BlackAngelList.com. That's literally like Angel List, but the Black version.
Right.
And so
Diddy and Jason actually invest in what y'all already doing.
they should. It's like
makes
we
sense. It's
love
already
them.
up
It's
and
already up
running.
and running.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we understand we got to put the weed in the bag. You
Absolutely.
know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We understand that. But at a certain point, we got pounds over here and the weed's starting to rot.
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
like,
yeah.
why you planting weed seeds,
Word.
brother? You know what I'm saying? We'll
Uplift
even
the
let
people
you
who have
tax it
already
a little
been putting in
bit.
the work.
But come invest.
Diddy need to know you. Diddy, you need to know Angel. We're going to introduce Angel to Diddy.
Thank you, Daddy.
Yes.
All right.
Now, what's the biggest misconception when it comes to the black dollar in America?
That we're ignorant.
Mm.
And so I would say that when I was done, I'm also the author of the African American Financial Experience Study, the reason that it's currently Blacks in Life Insurance Commercials, the first thing that I did. And I learned during that study, which is what led me to writing this book, is that so often people thought that we were just ignorant Black people with no money. And I disproved two things in that study. Blacks own more life insurance at an equal or higher value than any other race. And secondly, the Caucasians on the other side just don't know how to necessarily relate to us. They don't necessarily know our history. They don't know about the cotton. They don't know about the Civil War. They don't know about Freedmen's Bank. They don't know about all those various different things. Black codes. That was another time. Right. Okay. But anyway. And so they don't know all these various different things. They don't know. I had to literally sit down with one of the VPs of Prudential, and I was like, I was raised by my great-grandmother. And he was like, and I was like, and my great-grandmother was raised by a slave. Her great-grandmother. And he was like, oh my gosh, you have a direct connection to slavery. Oh my gosh, this is mind-blowing. And I was like, yes, sir. And that's most Black people across the country.
Duh.
Most Blacks. But that had never occurred to them. And after that conversation, a few days later, they finally let me do the African American study.
Wow.
And it was like literally a light bulb to them. And so I realized at that moment, wow, sometimes they are just being crackers, but a lot of them
Just don't know. Yeah.
So it eased me up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the racial wealth gap.
It turned me into more of an educational mode.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how do we close the racial wealth gap between Blacks and whites? And is it really a huge racial wealth gap?
Oh yeah, it's literally 250 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine the generational wealth of people passing down inheritances to their family members that we haven't had the time to really catch up on that.
Yes, I think that there needs to be more of a community effort. I think that there needs to be more things coming together, like the partnership that you have with Brilliant Idiots.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be more displays of that, where people are not scared to work together and to bring communities together.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a result of bringing those communities, like I got an office in Rome now. Like as a result, for real, I really do. So it's Louisa Labs. I'm going there next week. I'm going back next week. And so, but as a result of being able to bring communities together, you're able to share resources that you wouldn't have on the other side.
It's knowledge too. It's a lot. It's knowing. Like you look at Brooklyn and how we lost Brooklyn. I mean,
Yes.
Brooklyn was ours. We looked at it as not that expensive hood ghetto, and they took that and flipped it around. Same thing with Harlem. You know what I mean?
DC.
That was ours. They were selling brownstones for $1. Now those brownstones $2, $4, $5 million.
Yeah, shout out to my publicist, Nakia McClain. I'm going to coin this term, financial agriculture. I'm making this up as I speak. It's like financial agriculture, right? I used to study agriculture. When you plant a crop, you can't keep planting the same crop in the same soil. Any farm has to have 3 crops that rotate, because you have to be able to continue to fertilize the soil, because if you keep planting the same crop in it, it will dry those nutrients up that it takes to use that crop. So culture and communities are like that. Mm-hmm. You can't keep feeding off of the same culture in the same community. You have to be able to financially rotate those different experiences in order to produce different financial crops.
Go ahead, Angel.
Bars.
Your last name really Rich, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's destiny right there. That's God's plan all day.
Well, the
Thank
book,
you.
History of the Black Dollar, you can pick it up right now.
Where can they get it and where you buy books?
Amazon.com.
Okay.
Yes. And then, okay, all right. Then I'm also, yesterday, I just want to shout out 2 people. The taxi dispatcher, Nick at Newark Airport, and Ab from Just Us Cuts, who did my eyebrows with clippers yesterday in Newark, okay?
Wow.
This brother is fire. If he could do this with my eyebrows, he could definitely get your fade together. Yes.
All right.
Newark is a place we need to start investing more into.
I would definitely
Absolutely.
agree with that. Follow me on Angel Rich 27 at Instagram, as well as at Wealthy Lifers and Black Tech Matters. Download Credit Stacker on Google Play, on iOS. 60 countries, 21 languages, and buy History of the Black Dollar on Amazon.com as well.
And you're going to hear more from Angel on the Breakfast
And
Club.
follow us, Black Tech Matters.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Ms.
Was it at
Angel
Black
Rich.
Tech Matters? Black Tech Matters?
Yeah, hashtag Black Tech Matters.
Okay.
And go get your nails done at Snob Nails.
Woo! She was like a rapper. You see her
She
doing
did a snob face and
Snob
everything.
Angel Rich.
Angel Rich.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.